The champagne glass slipped from my trembling fingers, shattering against the marble floor of what they thought was their new mansion. "Congratulations on your inheritance, Rachel," my stepmother Diane had just announced to the room full of relatives. But there was one tiny problem. I wasn't Rachel anymore, and this wasn't their house. My name is Sarah, and I'm 38 years old. This is the story of how my own family tried to steal my identity and my fortune, only to discover they'd been living a lie for years. It started 6 months ago when my father passed away unexpectedly. Marcus, my older stepbrother, and his manipulative wife Jessica immediately swooped in like vultures. They'd been estranged from our family for over a decade, but suddenly they were the picture of grief and concern. "Poor little Sarah," Marcus had said at the funeral, his crocodile tears fooling everyone except me. "She's so fragile, so unprepared for the real world. Maybe it's time she comes live with us." What they didn't know was that I'd been secretly running Dad's entire business empire for the past 5 years. While they assumed I was just his delicate daughter who needed protection, I was actually the CEO of 3 companies and the primary beneficiary of a trust worth $12 million. Jessica played the perfect concerned sister-in-law. "Sarah, honey, you shouldn't be alone in that big house. Come stay with us until you figure things out." Her voice dripped with fake sweetness, but her eyes calculated every expensive item in the room. Diane, my stepmother, was the worst of all. She'd married my father 3 years ago and had been systematically trying to turn him against me ever since. "Sarah's always been so dependent," she told the relatives. "Thank goodness Marcus is here to take care of everything." They convinced me to move into their cramped suburban house, temporarily. Within a week, they'd taken over my credit cards, claiming they were helping with expenses. Jessica started wearing my designer clothes, saying she was keeping them safe. Marcus began driving my car, insisting his old one was more practical for me. The breaking point came when I overheard them planning to have me declared mentally incompetent. "She's clearly not stable enough to handle Dad's estate," Marcus told his lawyer over the phone. "We need guardianship papers drawn up immediately." That night I made 3 phone calls. The first was to my real lawyer, the one they didn't know about. The second was to my private investigator. The third was to the most exclusive event planning company in the city. 2 weeks later, I invited the entire extended family to what I called a celebration of new beginnings, at the Grand Metropolitan Hotel's penthouse suite. I told them it was Marcus and Jessica's treat, a generous gesture from their inheritance. The family arrived in their finest clothes, expecting a lavish party funded by what they believed was Marcus's newfound wealth. Diane wore the diamond necklace she'd stolen from my jewelry box, thinking I hadn't noticed. As champagne flowed and hors d'oeuvres were served, Marcus stood up to make a toast. "Family," he began, his chest puffed with pride. "Tonight we celebrate not just Dad's legacy, but our new chapter together. Thanks to my wise financial planning, we can all live comfortably." Jessica nodded beside him, already mentally spending money she'd never see. "And special thanks to my devoted sister-in-law Sarah, who's been so cooperative during this transition." I stood up slowly, every eye in the room turning toward me. "Before we continue," I said, my voice steady and clear, "I think there are a few things everyone should know." The room fell silent. I pulled out a folder from my purse, the same purse Jessica had tried to borrow the day before. "Marcus, you mentioned wise financial planning. I'm curious, what exactly have you been planning with?" I opened the folder and began reading. "Because according to these bank statements, your joint account with Jessica has been overdrawn for the past 6 months. Marcus's face went white. "Sarah, what are you?" "And Jessica," I continued, turning to my stepbrother's wife. "That beautiful dress you're wearing. The one you said you bought with our family money. The receipt says it was purchased with a credit card that belongs to SLC Enterprises. Do you know what SLC stands for?" The color drained from Jessica's face. Several relatives leaned forward, suddenly very interested. "Sarah Louise Chen. That's my legal name, the one I use for business. You see, for the past 5 years, while you all assumed I was just Dad's helpless little daughter, I've been running his companies. All of them. Diane tried to interrupt. That's impossible. Sarah's just a what, Diane? A naive little girl. I smiled coldly. Is that why you've been forging my signature on legal documents? Or why you tried to access Dad's safety deposit box with fake authorization papers? The room erupted in shocked murmurs. Uncle Robert, who'd always been suspicious of Diane, shook his head in disgust. The truth is, I continued, there is no inheritance for anyone to fight over. Dad transferred all assets to my name 3 years ago, when he married Diane. He was protecting his life's work from gold diggers. Marcus jumped up, his face red with rage. You're lying. Dad would never shut you out completely. You're right, he wouldn't. That's why he left you something very special. I pulled out another document. A bill. For exactly $47,000 in credit card debt that you've been accumulating in my name over the past 6 months. The room went dead silent. Jessica's champagne glass began shaking in her hand. Oh, and about tonight's party, I added casually. I hope you enjoyed it because the bill is going directly to your account, Marcus. All $15,000 of it. Marcus lunged toward me, but Uncle Robert and 2 cousins held him back. You can't do this. We're family, he screamed. You're absolutely right, I said, gathering my things. Family doesn't steal from each other. Family doesn't lie to each other. And family certainly doesn't try to have each other declared mentally incompetent for financial gain. I walked toward the door, then turned back one final time. By the way, Diane, those papers you signed yesterday, the ones you thought were insurance forms, those were eviction notices. You have 30 days to move out of what you assumed was our house. It turns out Dad never added your name to the deed. As I left the hotel that night, my phone buzzed with panicked messages. Marcus and Jessica's credit cards had been declined for the hotel bill. They were literally stranded with no way to pay for the party they'd been bragging about all evening. 6 months later, I heard through the family grapevine that Marcus was working 2 jobs trying to pay off the debt he'd created. Jessica had filed for divorce and moved back in with her parents. Diane was living in a studio apartment across town, telling anyone who'd listen that I was an ungrateful stepdaughter. But the most satisfying part, I used a portion of Dad's actual inheritance, the one they never knew existed, to start a foundation helping families recover from financial fraud. The first case we took on was helping an elderly woman whose stepchildren had stolen her identity. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying someone's life. It's simply revealing the truth and letting their own choices destroy them instead. I didn't have to lift a finger. Their greed and dishonesty did all the work for me. Now I sleep peacefully in my own home, surrounded by people who actually love me for who I am, not what they think I can give them. And every morning, I wake up grateful that I learned the difference between family and relatives before it was too late. The real twist. Dad had known about their plan all along. He'd left me a final letter explaining everything, including the private investigator he'd hired to document their fraud. He didn't just leave me his fortune. He left me the evidence to protect it. Sometimes the people who love us most are the ones who prepare us for the people who love us least.